So this week, continuing with the next lesson and going through our 6 competencies of 21st century learning, we're going to talk about real-world problem solving and innovation. This one is easily, when I reflect on my own teaching, this is the one where I would say I got an F. I did not do really well at all. I was an English teacher, and I kind of stayed pretty much within the walls of the school and within the walls of the books, you might want to call it. And I really didn't go past that. I think I created some really interesting activities and some pretty cool learning, but it never really got to the real world. I'm going to preface this by saying this is probably my least favorite term, real world. What that implies, I hate that when teachers or adults tell students, "Oh, when you get into the real world," because this is the real world. Their world is real to them, so it seems ridiculous to use that term. But I think it's needed here just for simplicity's sake. And the idea here is that the learning and the work and the innovation that occurs within um, the 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 class or the lesson can extend beyond the walls of the school. So let's just look at some of the big ideas that come with real-world problem solving. Um, Problem solving is the challenge. Now, there's the key. I think there's so many great words in here: real-world innovation, problem solving. But the key here is that there is a problem to solve. And there's some great lines about that. Is students don't need to think about what they're going to be when they grow up. They should think about what problems they're going to solve, and then the careers will find themselves. But the key here is that if you're looking at creating an assignment that is focused on real world problem solving is the challenge. And it completes tasks for which a solution is not already known. This doesn't mean that the students are creating a solution that no one else has thought of. That's not what that means. It's that there is a problem that exists, and there isn't a usable idea that's in place yet. There isn't a solution in place yet. So you're creating, you're adapting, you're evaluating, you're applying a new solution. It doesn't mean they have to recreate the wheel. It just means that there's a situation that exists, a problem that exists that hasn't been resolved as of yet. Um, it's a real world situation, and you're using real world data. It's not, Jimmy goes up to fetch a pail of water and then comes down. I mean, a lot of these situations that you see in some of these case studies and things like that really don't ring true. You want something that is, why not? There are very real problems that exist, and with technology now, you can get data about pretty much anything, and you can certainly gather a lot of data in ways that you never would have been able to before, and gather information and make contacts with people all over the world relatively instantly. And so, why not use something that's more real? Um, Huge, the idea of innovation. I mean, this might be one of those greatest skills that you can create in a child, is the ability to innovate, to create any of those things. Real world innovation is that. And then our experts are consulted from outside, and solutions are shared with audiences outside the classroom. This is huge. And again, technology allows this to occur, unlike it ever has before. The idea is that you can access experts or collaborate with people all over the world instantly, and then you can share solutions that you've made. So let's go through this a little bit and let's look at the chart. Again, we're moving through this chart. We're moving from entry down to transformation. This is the next spectrum of comfort, and we're looking at this. So you ask yourself these questions. Now, again, I'm going to preface this, as I will every one of these little vignettes, is that there is nothing to say that every single assignment that you create in a course deals with real world problem solving and innovation. It doesn't. That's not possible. And it often would be kind of ridiculous and wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. But you want to be looking at, can we be tackling real world issues at some point? You want to look at that. So maybe take one unit that you think could be that application sort of part to it, and then make it real world instead of just applying it to solve a case study or to answer a theoretical academic question. And these essay topics that I remember myself assigning were so ridiculous that I cringe when I think about it. That it really had no bearing on anything that the students would find remotely interesting or important, and yet I was baffled when they didn't really dig into an essay. Again, this was my biggest blind spot for sure when I was teaching. So we're looking at it here. Is the main requirement problem solving for this unit? And it might be an offshoot of the unit. It might be something that they have to do to get to sort of the next step, but it's not the main. It's got to be the main one. So remember, you have to go in order here. You got to go through this. You can't just skip around. So, is the main requirement problem solving? If yes, move on down and ask yourself the next question: are students working on a problem that is a concern outside their immediate world? And this is meaning, is it outside of that classroom? Is it something that really exists, that's a larger spectrum? This is the idea of making an engagement. Again, one of the biggest in that My School, My Voice survey, one of the biggest discrepancies we find in some of those questions is there's a question often that says something about students can see relation and meaning in their work as it applies to their real life, to their own lives, to their personal lives. There's a huge disconnect there, where students don't see any point to their learning as it applies to their daily lives. So, perhaps there's a gap we can fill here. Um, does the activity require innovation? Not just is innovation possible within the activity. Again, look at the language. Does it require it? Do you have to be innovative to create this? And that'll move you through the adaptation. That's really where you see it. Is it a problem? Yeah, but now here's where the difference is. Like I always say, adaptation is the different maker. That's the game changer here. That spot. Does it require innovation to move you forward? And then here's the big one: have students consulted with experts in the wider community with intention to share their solutions? So have they consulted? Are they sharing this? Now, this doesn't mean necessarily that someone actually listens. If they create a survey about, there's an example when you go through it about Olympic sites, and they analyze 5 different Olympic sites that the Olympic Committee, Choice Committee, could possibly use, and they send it off to the Olympic Committee. It doesn't mean the Olympic Committee has to respond or take their project and look at it and consider it. It doesn't mean that it has to actually influence anything. It would be good if it did. But what it's saying is that does that letter leave the classroom? Is it not just an academic exercise? It may actually have impact, and we've seen huge impact in ways. If you look at people like Craig Kielburger or the Kielburgers in general, and the work they did as children, you can see that there's amazing, and I could give lots of examples of similar things. But the idea here is that there's a possibility that you could reach out and that you could touch, uh, someone's real life situation and maybe make a difference. But the idea here is not that they do; it's that they try, and that's the idea here: is that they want to share those solutions and their innovation. They innovate and they want to share it with someone else. That's how you get into these lower levels of infusion and transformation. Um, and again, this is a real important one. I think that there's a real push towards this, the idea that everyone contributes. The internet and the social media platforms that exist and the sharing abilities that exist have really expanded the idea of who is listened to. It's not just experts per se, and I don't even know what that means anymore. It's not just academics. It's not just the 1% of 1%. Everyone's got a voice, and it's how you use that. It's how you reach out beyond those walls. And this is where things like Twitter and YouTube and any of those social medias can really be powerful. Skype can be amazing in this situation. So would love to see some examples of what this looks like. Would love to help with anybody with this, how this looks like. But that's the next step of the next lesson, is that idea of real world problem solving and innovation. Where do you find, if you think you've got a unit that you want to focus on, take a look at this. Where does it fall on this spectrum? And then what do you need to do to move it along that spectrum? Just some ideas. Thanks so much.